Welcome to another episode of the Choose Your Soul Show. We are your hosts. My name's Hakeem.
My name is Alyssa.
And we are passionate about providing resources and perspective to help you choose yourself and strengthen your soul. Today's episode is not for the emotionally dehydrated. We're talking about brainwaves, boundaries, and burnout. Because if you ever had to meditate and ended up arguing with your ex in the middle of it, while you're sitting alone in your room, or build a morning routine so long you need a nap after, this one is for you. We diving deep into emotional management, peak performance, and why your nervous system probably needs a hug and a glass of magnesium. Our guest today is the nervous system whisperer, emotional rewire coach, and a mental toughness technician. She helps entrepreneurs stop performing and start transforming through high-level life skills, elite-level habits, and truth-level coaching. She's here to teach us how to build that internal light that doesn't flicker when life throws shade. So whether you're running a business, running from your emotions, or just trying to run your own mind, this episode will meet you where you're at and help you get up, get over it, and get after it. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Tanya Oliver, how you doing? How you feeling? Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you both.
It's going to be such a good conversation. These are my favorite topics. This is what I've been obsessed with for years. And I can't wait to hear how you guide people through these things and how you teach it and a little bit of your story and how you even got into it. Why don't we start there? Tell us your story and how did you end up here? Where were you before and how did you find this work? And how do we get to 2025, June 5th?
One of my favorite quotes is like, what you are seeking is what you are. And I was like, okay, I've come from a space of addiction. I also grew up an athlete and I just wanted to become my most elite self. I wanted to learn to become an extraordinary self and to remove any form of self imprisonment that I was feeling within like my heart, my mind, my body, my spirit. And I just became on this relentless pursuit of figuring it out. And I do believe that God leads you when you are curious. And, as I mentioned, what you are seeking is also seeking you. And what you are seeking is what you are. So over time, I ended up like finding some powerful mentors and just learning a bunch of different things. And all the steps just started to piece itself together. My first career was in personal training, and I started in the fitness industry and tapped out to the fitness industry. I capped at a certain level, and I was like, "There's got to be more to this." And during the journey, I was like, "Okay, how do I overcome these addictions? How do I overcome these mental turbulences?" I was emotionally unavailable. I was constantly numbing myself to suppress my emotions because I didn't want to deal with them. I didn't want to deal with myself and the pain that I was feeling. And those were the only tools that I had at the moment to help process. So I started this journey of like finding mentors and coaches and books and just whatever I could do to be free, to feel liberation and to become an extraordinary human being. And so that led me to then ended up doing life coaching for entrepreneurs.
But it's all about the books, y'all.
Mhm.
GYM and grow your mind to understand what's possible, to tap into your potential every time. You only know what you know, and you only know what you've been taught, to be honest, until you get to that point where you're done masking, you're done numbing, you're done playing the victim, you're done dealing with your own shit. And that, my friends, is called the trigger point. And that's the point I'm trying to get you to with my approach and my directiveness, is to trigger you to choose yourself. You can't go without going within. If you don't tap in, you're going to tap out, and that's for sure.
Mic drop.
That's for sure. What's the book, the one book that I feel like everyone has a book that changed everything for them, that opened their minds. Do you remember what one you read? The first one that was like, holy shit, I need to dive into more.
There's levels to everything. And Hakeem can say this because I actually read through his book and it was a phenomenal book. So if those of you that don't have it, make sure you make a purchase. His story is incredible. You only see somebody like with where they're at, but you don't understand what got them there, what got them to this position. So it's really just been layers. Everybody's like, what's the one thing? There is no one thing. There's layers to things, there's steps to things. And so right now, my main book is scripture. I don't even remember what the first book was. I think I was more so into New Age with Louise Hay, and because this was, over 20 something years ago when I took ownership Because the first thing is you have to be honest that
Hmm.
there's a problem, that there's a challenge, that, that you're the problem. But when you admit that, it's like you reclaim your personal power. And you're like, if I'm the problem, then that means I'm the solution. And that's when the doors start opening. But one of the books that I recommend a lot to my students when we first start is The Hidden Messages in Water, because it talks a lot about epigenetics and the power of your inner world and how you have the power to shapeshift your belief systems and your environments based on from a cellular level. I would say like it's layers and levels to it, but that's always like the one recommended book. And of course, Outwitting the Devil is another one if you're somebody that does struggle with some forms of addictions and stuff like that. That's always a great one because it talks about just how little things you don't even realize impact you. It's like the little things that people are in the gray zone are actually more dangerous than people in the red zone because you're not even aware that every day they're killing you. They're killing your brain, they're killing your spirit, they're killing from you just operating as that like 10.0 version of
That
yourself.
dependency, man. You can be dependent
Mm-hmm.
on attachment. You can be dependent on connection out of fear of solitude. You can be dependent on productivity out of fear of silence. You can be dependent on connection out of fear of accountability. And like you said, at first you got to get to a point where you're like, all right, what happened to me may not be my fault, but getting over it, ain't nobody else gonna do it. And that's why I say getting over it, getting
Mm-hmm.
after it is the most compassionate thing you can do, because the more you sit in it, the more you suffer. But we about to go into,
Amen.
your go-to practice on quieting the noise. But can you explain like the difference between alpha, beta, and theta, epigenius? Just a quick overview for people listening. Yeah. Oh,
Epigenetics.
that's why. Because Epigenius is a product through the gut repair solution. It's called Purium. Tap into the link. 7 Salads Gut Repair. It's called Epigenius. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
called
why.
Epigenius. but but can you help us with the epigenetics alpha? Obviously, I need some help myself.
We all do. There's 5 brain waves that we operate in. And one of the brain waves to really step into your personal power is learning how to be in the present moment. When you learn to be in the present moment, you can remove yourself from the addictions, the attachments. And a lot of things that people don't talk about is, Hakeem, you said this, is the attachment to productivity, the attachment to high performance, the attachment to the hustle, the attachment to anger, the attachment to dopamine hits. Like it's beyond, the substance is just a tool to help people process their pain, to find some form of relief in the moment. But it gets a lot deeper based on like the nervous system. So you have the beta, the alpha, the theta, the delta, and the gamma. And the theta is a brain where you're still consciously awake, but you have the power to almost be like, have you ever been in like the flow before? Like you're so present that nothing else exists and you're just you're just in a
Hmm.
flow
Like,
state. So that's the theta brainwave. The alpha is the like you having conversation, thinking about what you're gonna say, this and that. That's more the beta, or even if you're super stressed out, that is a beta response. The alpha is the bridge to get you there, and the theta is the ultimate goal to be in when you want to be in fully present in the flow, and that's when you have the power to completely shape shift just really anything that you want with your subconscious. Because we have a lot of people don't realize one of the practices that I've incorporated 2 years ago, because I was like, there's something missing. Give your father away, you're like,
mhm.
there's something missing. And I got into something called theta healing, and theta healing recognizes that there's 4 levels of the belief system, and everybody thinks there's just the one or the three, the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious. And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about tapping into the super consciousness through meditations and getting into like a higher brainwave. But in our subconscious, we have 4 layers to it. We have our soul, we have our genetic, our history, and we have the core level. So it's a little bit more complex, but it's still simple at the same time. And the ultimate goal is, if you really do want to make massive changes, is the power in the present moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And theta brainwave state. So that's the state we're in right before we go to sleep and right when we wake up too, right?
That's the delta.
Delta. I just know theta
Yeah.
is also programmable, really programmable. So kids are in that state from ages 0 to 7, or some people say 9.
Yeah.
So thinking about when
Mhm.
you're a kid and everything is, you're so impressionable and you can absorb everything. And so that's when you develop your belief system and your programming, because you are in that theta brainwave state most of the time. And so thinking about that, think back to your childhood and think about the things that you learned when you were growing up and what things got stuck in your belief system and how you can deprogram the things that are not serving you and getting back into that state to deprogram, deprogram to reprogram.
Well, I agree if you have a very like stable upbringing, but what I've noticed with a lot of high achievers and entrepreneurs is they've never had a stable upbringing. They've had some form of trauma, whether it being emotional, physical, sexual, that's kept them in more of a beta, which is a fight. That's why a lot of times, like, number one, you're overthinking. There's certain types of the personality that makes us great to operate at higher levels, but at the same time, it's important to resolve those things, because if we are talking about the energy systems, the chakras, it's the root. So children that have been brought up in an unsafe environment, there is importance to go back and to heal that aspect, because they don't get to be in a theta brainwave.
Yeah, do you think most people are in beta most of the time?
I mean, when you're babies, you don't really know what's going on, but up to the age of 0 to 3, the child's nervous system is completely codependent on the mother's nervous system. So your nervous system is actually created as a normal base up until the 0 to 3. So if you don't have a mom, or your mom is frantic all the time, or she's a substance abuser, or she's just not safe, maybe narcissist, or under a lot of stress, your nervous system is actually taught that becomes the familiar, like this is the known. And so when, as we're talking about attachments, you have to retrain your nervous system to realize that is not normal.
How do you do that? How do you retrain your nervous system?
I mean, there's one thing that I covered. Well, there's 4 things through 4 pillars of operating as a human being. So if you want to have an extraordinary life, you first have to learn how to become an extraordinary self. And I think that's why you, Hakeem and I, really connected, because we both promote the same thing. Is that you've got the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. So if you can't neglect one or the other in order to be operating at that most efficient self, because if you're not taking care of your body, you're not going to be able to be regulated on a nervous system level. But if we're talking about the spiritual aspect, things like meditation, prayer, shifting your environment, your ecosystem. Everybody talks about fasts and prayers, which I just got off of one right now. But even fasting people, places, and things, habits, behaviors, like fasting, whatever it is that is creating toxicity in your inner environment. And the easiest way is to also look at your outer environment to make sure that the places that you go, the conversations that you're having within yourself, the conversations that you're having with other people, even complaining. People do things because there's chemicals that are released in order for people to feel like a connection. So there's so many different factors. And then things like mental rehearsal. Affirmations don't always work because it's not your subconscious natural dialogue. So identifying like your primary words, you can shapeshift them into ones that are more in alignment. And that's one, I mean, there's so many parts to it. Emotional management tools, things like EFT.
I love
I'm really big on EFT.
Yeah.
I teach EFT, breath work, getting into
The gym.
I mean, having support systems. There's so many different things to go through.
Go work out. Take your ass to the gym.
Were you gonna say something, Keem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the gym.
Yeah.
That is
That'll
first step.
regulate your
You got to
shit
take
too.
care of your body.
I'll tell you that much for sure. But it's like a mind, body, spirit. I mean, it's one. It's the being. So finding a time to dedicate to those 3 things in your day. I don't care when it is, y'all. You can work a damn graveyard shift, and your bedtime can be noon. At 11:30, tap into yourself. First 30 minutes in the morning, tap into yourself. Because once you pick up your phone, once you look at your laptop, once you go to work and family, you're consuming. Regardless, you're commuting, you could be doing whatever you need to do, obligations, thinking that, oh, I'm being a great dad, but you're still consuming whatever ideology or self-concept you think you have to portray forward to be a good dad for your parents, which could be outside of the version you are, because we're always aspiring to be better. And that is the importance of getting around people as well. You can't be alone in the forest all damn day because you don't know how you feel about yourself until you project it to others, because that's when the truth comes out under uncomfortability, unfamiliarity, excitement, love, new environments. That's why y'all should come on a retreat. Then you have to really see that work that you did is going to come to surface when you go meet somebody. You can say in private all day, I've been working out hard. I've been training for a marathon. You get to the marathon, we're going to see how hard you've been training. When you get to the damn situation, we're going to see how much character development, awareness, emotional intelligence, spiritual enlightenment you have, because it's going to surface every time. And I say, when you wake up, between your alarm and your phone, tap into yourself for sure. How'd your routine help with your transition out of the numbing and masking and victims mentality? How'd that shift help you?
I mean, it's always evolving the more spiritually mature, emotionally mature, because there's maturity to everything. And, you have like your physical workouts that strengthen your body, but there's also needs to be mental workouts, going to the mind gym, emotional training, spiritual training. Your morning routine starts with your night routine. So a lot of people, I think they just talk about morning routines, but they neglect the night routine. And your subconscious is the most vulnerable at night and in the morning. So it's important to make sure that whatever you are programming yourself with, because I actually do listen to audios first thing in the morning. I give myself 15 minutes and I allow myself to do a laying meditation. And I'll put in like a YouTube guided meditation or something like that because I'm not quite ready to get up. But I also have the discipline to not get on social media first thing in the morning. There's certain aspects. First, it's the spiritual. Then I go to the gym for like the morning things. I come back. I'll eat breakfast. I always do like my own healthy breakfast. I make sure I cook my food because food is a huge impact on your mental performance and your mental clarity. I see all your steak things. I had to get a steak this morning with some avocado. And yeah, the discipline of the night, like having that cutoff time, setting boundaries for yourself is super important. But what you do last thing at night and first thing in the morning are super critical. But mine have been evolving since I've been writing my book. Is I've incorporated now something called mental rehearsal. So I've built out like the 10.0 version of myself, and I'm introducing myself to myself every day. Last thing at night, first thing in the morning. And then I'll do my journaling and I'll do my reframing of like just auditing my day. Okay, what were my wins? What were my challenges? How could I reframe my challenges? What are my intentions for tomorrow? And then also how am I scripting my next 24 hours? Like, how do I want it to go in my favor for my highest and greatest good? And then the morning then starts, like I said, with the laying meditation, the going to the gym, working out, or doing yoga, and then coming home, eating a hearty breakfast, and then getting in scripture, and then starting my day like around 10 o'clock.
Yep. Do you have kids?
Perfect. That's what I do too, essentially.
My inner child and plants.
That's a good one. I'm about to start saying that. I'm like, yep, I do. I got a child in me my whole life.
It's
Pregnant.
true. You got to care for your inner child. It's always going to be there. She acts up sometimes. We need some time out. We need to process things. So, yeah. But other than that, like physical children, no. Inner child, yes.
Nah, that routine, man, saved my life. That's why I talk about the foundation. Your nighttime routine actually starts, it's cyclical. Your nighttime routine is impacted by your consumption throughout the day. Your ability to stay intentional throughout the day is impacted by your morning routine. And your morning routine is impacted by your sleep. Your sleep is impacted by your nighttime routine. So if you want to work on your sleep, start with your consumption right now. What you're eating, what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're saying to yourself, how you're reacting. All those things impact the cortisol levels and your ability to stay focused. The more you let something from the morning drag over to lunch, then something in lunch happens, it just keeps piling up. Now, when it's time for you to decompress, do you want to sit in silence or do you want to numb it and binge and watch Netflix and drink and smoke until you sleep because you didn't deal with it throughout the day? So find them times to tap in with yourself and then have a time between your bedtime, your curfew or kick out time, and your bedtime to decompress, process, and release, man, for sure. When you wrote your book, one thing I found difficult was to take my emotions out of it and try to make it just principles and examples and no emotions. Also, I was dealing with the concern of like, what's my mom, my dad gonna think? My friends. I'm not talking about my sister. I'm not talking about, this coach or this coach. Well, how are they gonna feel? How do you decide, or did you deal with any of those kind of contemplations when you wrote your book?
This book has been 3 years in the making, and I've noticed going back because I switched between two publishing companies to see like who is the most in alignment. And I did a lot of prayer and meditation on it. Meditation also is a big part of my morning and night routine. But I really prayed and meditated on it, and God just kept telling me like I have to write it. So this year, probably the last 8 months, I've been completely hands-on every single day. That's why I'm up at 4 a.m. to have that discipline to get what I want to get done. But I would say that your emotions are your guidance system. And so I'm actually really tapping into my emotions. But when I go back to specific chapters, I will look and to make sure that the language is the same, because over the last 3 years, I've realized my verbiage has completely shifted as I've matured and matured physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So I do believe, and maybe it's a difference between men and women, the emotions have a huge power in tapping into a higher level of consciousness and also your intuition. So I've used it to leverage, but I made sure the emotions weren't ones out of like fear, anger, a worry, anxiety. Like I made sure that they were stable emotions. So to answer your question, I tapped into the emotions that were in alignment, but I made sure that I funneled out the ones of like how I was writing when I was in a state of like anxiety or stress or whatever it could be, because I can see that in the writing. So that's what did get funneled out.
That's important. Everybody should write a book, even if you're just gonna give it to your kids when you die. Write a book for you to just process yourself, for sure. Super healing for me.
I've been telling a lot of people, Hakeem, have you realized though, like when you wrote your book, it was a huge part of number one, healing, and then also a part of like personal growth and development?
Yeah. If you're still living in any of those mindsets of your past, you're not gonna be comfortable writing about it. So like obviously those things happened up until
Mhm.
2018. Then I started my personal development. And I wasn't about to release none of that shit because I did not have my mind, body, spirit, emotions in place to where if somebody were to say something about my past, it wouldn't bring up that version in the present. So I had to accomplish a bunch of shit between when I started healing and when I published my book to have the confidence to be like, all right, well, look at all this I've done since that. And that type of realization was like, wow, I came a long way that I can now finally release my book about all the bullshit choices I've made, because now the systems I put in place have proven to work. The foundation, the process, the message, everything that I've used to pull myself out of addiction, grieving, all the topics that I discussed, injury, freaking loss, whatever the hell it is. All those systems I can now put into a structure and a text for others. So it's a 10-book series. I got another book coming for every chapter because of the enlightenment I got. And somehow I'm going to create a book coaching course, because I think it should be the end of every, chapter, transformation, every level. You should write another book or a journal. Similar thing.
Mm-hmm. Alysia, you're next, right?
Writing a book? Yeah, actually I thought about it. I started pondering and kind of drafting something out, just thoughts in a journal. Beginning stages, but I'm like, yeah, I had a psychic friend who was doing a reading for me, and she's like, I'm getting author, and I'm like, okay. I never really considered it, but ever since then, that was a couple months ago, and then Keem obviously has been writing his, and just kind of following his journey. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm getting on board. I'm on the train in the beginning parts.
He influenced you. He's a positive influence.
Totally.
Shit, on myself too. One time I made a video and triggered myself to stop smoking weed by watching my own video back. I said, oh shit, the weed is the devil. Up, all right, guess I quit. I thought it was from God. Nope, not the way I said it. So
The devil's lettuce.
don't think that I just be motivating y'all. I'm motivating myself. That's what happened. Do you find that with your content, Tanya, when you talk about the things you're passionate about?
I was just gonna say that too. Yeah. I realized recently that, for example, even the book, I was like, this book I actually
Right.
need. Like I wrote this book because I need it. And that's even the same thing of the coaching. Is like I did coaching because I needed it. And I didn't think I was going to get into this space. Like I didn't have the vision. I was just taking one step at a time in this pursuit of just learning how to become extraordinary human being. I was like, I just want to be an extraordinary human being and see like where this goes. And I want to be free of all these things that I'm like captive of. And as far as like the coaching, absolutely. It's been such a journey because I get that there's a lot of coaches out there because I'm seeing this now, especially the more that I'm putting into like media, is there's a lot of really phenomenal presenters and a lot of people do not practice what they're presenting because it's hard. So when you're actually the embodiment of what you're talking about, you can tell the people that are actually doing the work versus those that are just really great at copying and pasting.
Yep.
You can tell by the way that they look. Somebody says like they're a life coach and they look super sick, you might want to, look into that. As somebody said, it's kind of like, an overweight trainer. I think Hakeem, you had said that
Yep.
one of your,
All the
I was
time.
like cracking up at one of them. You're like, I'm not going to go to the gym and hire an overweight trainer. So it's like the same concept is like, what is somebody's personal experience? And like, are they in the embodiment or at least on the journey of like becoming what they're saying? And so I do believe that one of my favorite quotes, they said it was by Spider-Man, but I'm pretty sure it was by, I forget exactly where it was, but it was like, with great power comes great responsibility, but with great responsibility comes great power. So when you're actually practicing what you preach, you do step more into your personal power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find a dentist with no teeth. Okay. Because if they believe in teeth being healthy, okay, they will find a way to get implants, veneers, fixings, root canals, because they know it's important. If they don't think it's important, you'll see it. Overweight preachers and doctors and freaking, I don't want to hear it. Y'all go ahead. I don't want nobody in my damn treatment facility for addiction who's never battled addiction trying to tell me how to battle addiction. I don't want to hear it from you. You ain't never had to been hooked on a bottle or a pipe or some pills talking about, oh, just go. Hey, you go get hooked first and pull yourself out. And then we can start talking about it. But that is exactly right. And especially with this AI component where you can make a song in 30 seconds, you can write a book in 30 seconds, you can make a reel in 30 seconds, you can create an AI image in 30 seconds. But when I see you in person, if your energy does not align with what was online, now off the rip, you're deceptive. Off the rip. If you got big booties, titties online, you can show up and you got all kind of shit showing, what you doing? You obviously don't like yourself. And now you're one to utilize online imagery, online character development and creation as a way to project a different image. Now you said something that was key was at least be on the journey. Because when I started talking online, I wasn't quite doing the things offline that I was doing online, but my integrity kicked in over time. And now I do it every time. And I use my vocalization online as a tool to shake my integrity and authenticity when I'm offline. So now it's called the integrity loop in my book. And that claim to others is what I realized in that is making a claim into the universe. Universe is one thing because it's still us and us plus us and our creator. But to others, we really give a damn about it. So like I was on the journey, but I hadn't quite mastered the snooze yet. But I was telling people stop hitting the snooze. This is 2018. And I still would wake up, I hit the snooze, and I feel guilty as hell. And I'd be like, damn, I can't post about that until I don't hit the snooze for 3 days. Then I'm confident enough to say it again. And so being able to put yourself in that growth uncomfortability of make a claim, fail, get over it, get after it. Make a claim, fail, get over it, get after it. You learn compassion, you learn resiliency, you learn persistence, you build confidence, you learn how to master the quitting mind and your emotions, especially if you put yourself into a controlled struggle like cold shower, fasting, sprinting, heavy weights. Those things put you into a space where you have to actually expand your conscious mind. So that's, I realized that probably in the last year, that's important. Like not to judge people so much so quickly if they don't resemble what they say, because they might be making a claim to hold themselves accountable. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you don't know what level somebody is. Like I had said, like there's there's levels to things, right? So it's like you just have to be one level ahead and at least consistently be moving forward. And if you do relapse, I call them habit relapses. If you do relapse on what you're saying, like Hakeem said, is you just get back up and you brush your shoulders off, have grace and compassion for yourself, make sure you're learning. Failure isn't a fail if you're learning from it, or even if you're making progress. So maybe you don't face plant as hard. Maybe you just like fall. And then next time, instead of falling, you trip. And the next time you're like, oh, let me anticipate suffering and not go that direction. And let me course correct.
Habit, what did you call it? Habit
Habit
relapse. I love that
relapse.
term. I think because we were talking about this the other day, Keem, where it's like habits, implementing new habits, especially after years and years and years of doing the same thing, it can be hard and you are going to have a relapse because your body is so used to doing the same thing. So it's like having the awareness though around what you're trying to change and noticing when you go back is major key. And sharing the journey too. I think, especially if you're online and you're a creator and you're trying to help others, sharing your own failures is important because it lets people know you don't have to be perfect. And even if you start your journey today, it's not like you have to be perfect from here on out as long as you're trying. I think it's super important for people to see that so they don't get so caught up in themselves and beat themselves up if they can't do it daily at the beginning, because it does take time to implement. And just showing that part of your life is like, okay, I am trying to make a change. I wanted to go back to what you said about how you didn't know you were going to get into coaching and how the journey, you just had a vision of becoming a great person, essentially an enlightened human. And it's funny how the journey unfolds to where you are now, because when I started working online in 2018, I had no idea I would be where I am now either. And it's kind of like your passion and your purpose unfolds as you take the first step, and follow the excitement of your life, and just making sure that you are following what gets you motivated as opposed to what doesn't. Like where are you contracted and where are you expansive, and how can you follow the expansion a little bit more to help you step into that light, to help you step into that full version of yourself. A lot of people, I feel, they don't take the steps towards that expansion because it's so scary, or they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know what's going to come of it. But that's what your soul is meant to do, is follow the expansion.
I think that you said so many great points, and I spent some time with purpose. And I think a lot of people are searching for purpose and fulfillment. And when I was researching purpose and I was spending some time with it, what it just means is identifying what your gifts are, because we all have gifts, and then from there mastering and sharpening those gifts, and then to share it with others. Because if you have all these gifts and you're hoarding them, you're really just doing a disservice to yourself and to others. And I see that being like one of the reasons why people are so caught up in depression. And Jim Carrey said, was one of my favorite things he said, was like, depression is when you've outgrown a character that you're consistently playing. And part of evolution is identifying that and then sharpening it and mastering it and learning how to hone it all in. Because when I was in the pursuit, I was like, why can't somebody just put all these things together? Like, why do I have to go somewhere here, invest like tens of thousands of dollars in spirituality stuff? And why do I have to go here to focus on like the mental stuff? And why do I have to go over here to focus on the physical? Like, we are all of this, like, and then the emotional stuff. Like, why? And people were missing pieces, and I was like, no, 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 this is the wholeness of being human. And so that's where my coaching ended up being birthed. Was I was like, I'm going to put it all together and then add my own voice and stuff like that to it, because that was one of my gifts, and to be able to teach it. And I knew that I was always a teacher. I love teaching, I love coaching. So that was just something I was like, oh, I'm really good at like taking the complex things and making them super simple.
The gift is found in the places you don't want to freaking look. Hate to say it, y'all. You go into them dark places of trauma, the shadow work, the blind spots that your ego and your conditioning hide you from. That's where the gift is. That's the purpose of the conditioning, to keep you away from your uniqueness. Because when we're all unique and we're independent, then we're less reliant on the propaganda, and we can connect and unify as one and strengthen the health of humanity, where we don't become reliant on convenience, comfort, money, titles, achievements, looks, status. All that stuff can be controlled by money. Money, achievements, looks, money, status. When we start to tap inward, then we're talking about intuition, willpower, your gift, your uniqueness, your passion. All these things are independent and unique to each one of us. But if you have something that you can do that's hard for a lot of people to do, that you ain't asked for, you ain't prayed for, you could just do it, that's part of your gift. If you have something that you would do for free for the rest of your life as the last person on this planet, that's your passion. Now you got your gift and your passion. Now go look in your story, write your book down, write down the dark days, write down the victim's mentality, and then flip it to a positive. The positive components from the victim's mentality, plus your gift, plus your passion, will help you develop what you can contribute to humanity, which then becomes your purpose. And like you said, you don't even find your purpose until you feel it. I feel like you have to give back first to feel if it's your purpose. But there's a balance because you don't know what to give, what point to give. So that's where the faith comes in. You don't know what point you've healed enough to start helping others. Like, yeah, I'm healthy, I'm ripped, I'm jacked, but I don't have the finances I want. I don't have the girl I want. I don't have the car I want. Can I start helping? Well, we can all help somebody who we used to be. So no matter what point on your journey it is, look back at the old version of yourself. What would that person need? And start reaching out to those people. And I guarantee once the student is ready, the teacher appears every time. The first thing we want to do is share it naturally. So that's, how does that goes into the next question. How does faith, intuition, and inner guidance come into play when building someone's success system? How do you evaluate those things?
It's such an advantage, especially if you know that you have leadership in you, because it becomes a spiritual advantage to see above and beyond. I have this prayer that I've been saying recently, and it actually came to me in meditation. And it just is, God, give me your eyes so I can see beyond my limited vision. Give me your ears so I can hear beyond my ego. And give me your voice so I can speak life into myself and speak life into others. And when you tap into the points of intuition by also having a meditation practice, a prayer practice, alone time, and also being around people that are connected as well, it becomes you become an energetic vibrational match to people that recognize that within you. And I do believe that's why we even connected. We're like, oh, like I recognize you, because what you see in others is what you see in yourself. But what I've realized, when you're taking the invisible steps, there's levels to even the spirituality. So when you are taking the invisible steps, having that quiet time allows you to know when to pivot, and to know that bad things don't have to happen to you, or you don't have to be backed into a corner in order to pivot and move. So it also prevents, I do have found this to be true for my own life, and then also hearing stories from my clients and other people, is that it prevents you from putting yourself in unhealthy environments, or getting into toxic relationships, or having friendships that are just not for your highest and greatest good, or putting yourself in business opportunities where they sounded amazing, but I kept tapping in, and my intuition was like, no, absolutely not, don't do it, it's not in alignment. So if you're not connected on your motive and tapping into your God center, your intuition, you are going to have to go back and clean up a mess that could have easily been prevented. And that's the power of meditation. That's the power of taking your spirituality to, a daily practice, like putting in the daily repetitions, because then you're able to have discernment of which voice is ego and which voice is for your highest and greatest good.
Yeah, ego is usually loud and intuition is quiet. So you have to pay attention to those little nudges, otherwise it goes away, and the loud voice will take over and lead you in a direction that maybe could have been prevented if you listened to the quiet voice first.
Well, I believe that the ego is loud until it's not. From personal experience, I can say this: the different layers and levels of spirituality is when you're putting in the daily repetitions. That's why it's not just like once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week. It has to be every day. I move my body every day. I meditate every day. I pray every day. I do my emotional training every day, because I want to be on point every single day. I want to be sharp. I want to be clear. I want to operate at peak performance every single day. Now, not every day is going to be like at that high 10 out of 10 level, but I know that I did my work. And I will say that the more that you put in the repetitions of your meditational practice, and the more that you trust yourself, because this is a huge part of really trusting yourself, that the intuition voice gets louder than the ego. So it's kind of like the story of two wolves. Are you familiar with the story of two wolves?
I'm not.
Let's hear it.
So the story of two wolves, I'll just share real fast, is there was a Cherokee Indian and he was passing down wisdom to his grandson. And he was telling him every single day there's a battle between these two wolves. You have the one of anger and jealousy and ego and envy and greed and negativity. And you have one of like love, compassion, joy, grace, abundance. And every day these wolves are fighting and they're at battle. And then he just stops and he goes, well, which one wins? And he goes, the wolf you feed.
Ooh.
So if you're constantly feeding the gossip, the complaining, the self inner critic, the putting yourself in unhealthy environments and then putting yourself down all the time or neglecting your body, you know, and things like that and just being lazy, then this voice wins.
I
Yep.
love that.
But if you pour into this one, then this voice wins.
So I would say 90% of people, their ego is louder than their intuition, because I feel most people do not meditate every day. So if you're listening to this, start. Even though I know meditation is so, it seems so cliche to say, and everyone says it, but are you actually doing it? And when you sit down to actually do it and you are consistent with it daily, you will see a big difference. What's your number one tip for someone who's a brand new beginner who can't sit down? You know, the people that say meditation is so hard, I can't clear my mind, I can only sit down for 3 minutes. Like, what advice do you give them to actually just stick to it and do it daily?
Yeah, I'm going to go with what Hakeem was saying earlier is Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches there's four planes of meditation. You've got lying, you've got sitting, you've got standing, and you've got walking. The goal of meditation is to be fully present and connected to your higher self, to the expansion of your day. So your workouts can be meditation. When I salsa dance, I'm completely in flow state. I'm completely fully present, and that becomes meditation and movement. When I'm strength training and I'm like just connected to my breath, I'm completely in meditation. When I'm doing yoga, I'm completely in meditation. Now I do my sitting meditation as another form of meditation. But meditation can be going for a walk. It can be in a conversation that's highly enlightening, that nothing else exists and time doesn't exist, because that's really the point of meditation, is it teaches you to be fully present and completely connected to the breath, which is prana, for the expansion of your day.
Like a foundational fire. The foundational fire is the analogy that will illustrate any transition of growth. Now, the time of growth, whether it's 1 day, 1 week, 1 year, from the old version to the new version, is subjective. But the foundational fire is a description of the transition from the old version to the new version of anything: new habit, new mindset, new diet, new relationship, new city, new freaking size belt. Okay. It's the first part when you're hungry and cold and lonely and you're looking to build a fire. You have to tap into your faith, willpower, and self efficacy to be able to go chop down a tree with the belief that the fire will help you eat and be warm. But you don't get the fire until you do a bunch of shit that sucks while you're cold and hungry. You go find the tree. You got to sharpen your tools. Then you got to cut the tree down. Then you cut the limbs down. Then you cut the limbs into pieces. Then you cut the pieces into pieces. Then you start the fire. Then you get your fire. So that process of chopping the tree down, it could be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, where it's just faith and a blind faith and a belief in something greater than you, whether it's your future self or your dream life. Once you get the fire, once you see the results, once you see weight start to shed, once you see money start piling up in your bank account, once you see people start shedding off in your life, now this is what we're talking about, where it doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10 tap in foundation with yourself. You can fan the fire or you can put gasoline on it, but you can't leave it alone. Because if you leave it alone, then the old habits, people, places, and things gonna put the fan out. Now you got to restart and find another tree. So when we talk about mini foundation, a full foundation, that's just keeping us a distance from relapsing and growth. So it's like when you think, oh, I did it, I made my weight. Well, you better do your damn foundation again. Don't stop doing what got you to where you want to be, because it keeps that separation and it keeps the ego quiet for sure. And your intuition strong. That's how I feel. So either fan the fire, put gasoline on it, but don't leave it alone. You're going to freeze and die.
Yeah.
Amen.
I think that can be said for everything too, like your personal foundation, relationships, business, like whatever got you into the relationship or the business, keep doing those things. Otherwise, the person you meet, if you fall in love with someone and then you start acting different, and different from what they met you as. It's like, okay, see ya. And same with business. You build up to a certain point of success, and then you stop doing the things that made you successful. It's all going to break down. So you need to be consistent in all of those things.
Yeah, well, that just means your foundation, like Hakeem was saying, was never
Yeah.
solid in the first place. Because if your foundation is solid, none of those get compromised because you're not compromised because the foundation is you.
Bingo.
Every time, man. I ain't skip. I plan my life around my foundation, and I just developed a day split technique, which I'm still finalizing. But splitting your day into compartments and putting tasks in each compartment, and once that compartment of your day is done, you leave those tasks in that compartment for the next day. So you don't have a long list for the whole day. Your morning is for certain things. Your lunch is for certain things. It could be different times of the day, but compartment 1 is certain things. Compartment 2 is certain things. Compartment 3 is certain things. It might be 8 hours, 1 hour, 1 hour. It might be 5 hours each. It's different for everybody, but compartmentalizing my day is what helps me stay focused and be able to find positivity, even if I fucked up the morning. I'm like, all right, it's part 2. We're going to knock this one out. Mess that up. Part 3, knock it out. Or sometimes you sacrifice part 3 for 20% fun, and then you take part 1 for recovery, and now you got your balance in place. The day starts late, but you still get it in. So I think definitely organization is something we all have to work on. But how do you differentiate between peak performance and just being stuck in overdrive? Something I deal with. I be trying to figure out how to identify those two things all the time.
Having flexibility within structure, you have to have structure. It's one thing to have foundation, but it's another, as you're mentioning, to have structure within your day, but to have that flexibility within it. And I'm really big on breaks. I'm really big on taking breaks in the day, even if it's just 15 minutes, to prevent the overdrive, to make sure that everything's in alignment, because there's a difference between alignment culture and hustle culture. And the more that you're tapped into your intuition, tapped into the spirit, it's being able to also have flexibility to pivot if you need to, because if everything's so rigid and everything's so structured, it will create a trigger to the rebellious personality. And a lot of high achievers have a rebellious personality. So even when you're telling yourself something like it has to be done this way and it has to be done these many days, and you get bored, you get understimulated or overstimulated, is when you can then go back into those habit relapses, to go into the space of the self-sabotage, because there's a cycle behind it. And you also have to identify and know your personality and know what triggers you and what sets you off. And so when you give yourself grace and freedom within structure, you're more likely to just find joy within the days and even the hard days.
Yes, I love that. Grace and freedom within structure. Write that down, you guys, because that's so needed. And especially when people are so rigid, and
That's the key.
the A type people, whatever they're called, I'm like, you guys need to relax a little bit. Just have a little
I
more
get it.
fun.
I'm the same. I'm a total leader, high achiever, strive for greatness. Let's go. But now the last several years, as I've stepped into my 40s, I'm like, not operating like this anymore. Like, this is just not, it's not in alignment, it's not working. And also just being a woman, just stepping more into my divine feminine and allowing grace, because even for women, we have different, like, every month and every week of every month, based on our hormones and our cycle, it's our energy level shift. Like, there is a difference between men and women. There really
Huge.
is, like, emotionally, hormonally, our
Not nowadays.
well, we're talking about
They
there's two
confusing
genders.
everybody now.
Two genders.
No, I believe you.
Two
Trust me.
genders, that's it.
No, I agree with you.
Like,
I agree with you.
yeah,
But
there's
these
no
kids
confusion there.
nowadays.
A
Shit.
giraffe is not a lion, okay? It's a giraffe.
Yep.
Like,
Damn
that's
right.
it.
Yep. I heard
So
that.
I'm very strong at that.
Same.
I'll see what I
Yeah.
say, can't convince
We
me
on the same
otherwise.
page.
Yeah.
But no, it's so
Yep.
true. It's so true. Once I first,
Yep.
and it's crazy how the society doesn't teach us as women. I didn't start learning about luteal and follicular, and of course, ovulation and menstruation. But I didn't start learning about all these phases until 2 years ago. I'm 35 years old. I'm like, why didn't they teach me about these when I was in high school, when I got my period? You know what I mean? So understanding those hormone levels and how to act, especially as women in business, you have to honor yourself, and it's okay to slow down sometimes. You don't always have to keep up with a man who has the same hormone and energy levels, 24-hour cycles every single day. Give yourself some grace.
Yeah,
You don't have to be a powerhouse all the time. Like, yes.
Yeah, and that's another Yeah, and that's the thing is about self-mastery is know thyself and accept thyself. You can't change yourself if you don't accept yourself. You have to accept the pretty, the ugly, the shadow, the child, the adult, you know, your addictions, your cravings, your desires, your anxiety, like they are all part of being a beautiful human being. And so the faster you accept that, the faster you can move through it. Like Hakeem was saying, like the only way out is through. Then you can make necessary changes if you want to change, because change is a decision.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. And on the flip side, man, you ain't got them cycles of hormones, so you better shut your ass up and get after it. Don't be taking too many breaks off. But also find a way to process your emotions and hit the gym. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tanya, so much for coming on. Appreciate what you do. Definitely got to tap in for that theta subconscious evaluation
Theta
awareness
healing,
session we're about
belief
to have.
work.
Y'all tap in, man.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would love to do
You
that.
just let me
I'll
know.
DM you.
Okay.
Yeah, you too,
Yeah.
Alicia. Yeah, you just let me know. On me, my gift. We'll do a theta healing session, which is just belief work and tap into the subconscious to pull clear resolve, whatever it is that no longer serves you for your highest and greatest
I
good.
love that. So why don't you really quick, how can people find you? How can they work with you? What's your website? What's your Instagram? We'll take it in the show notes. And
Well, I have a gift for them, for everybody. It's TanyaCOliver.com/build. It's a 10-page PDF on 10 steps to build mental strength and step into your personal power. And then I'll send up the updates for like the book as it's in publishing right now and should be launched like no later than Q3, which is like literally next month. And that's really it, I guess.
amazing.
Instagram at Tanya C.
Yeah,
Oliver.
we'll put all of your links in the show notes. And this was such a great conversation. Thank you. If you are listening and you like this episode, make sure you follow Tanya and give us a rating, leave us a written review. We love those. It helps push things out in the algorithm. And we appreciate you for being here. Until next time.
Appreciate both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Choose yourself to be chosen.